What's up everyone, Adrian here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, and that being camera equipment and gear. Specifically, bags that I use to travel and also what I use to secure my gear and the accessories associated along with my camera bags. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing some bags that I use in my current daily rotation and then talk about a little bit why I use these bags. Now, there are some questions that I'm going to be raising beforehand and getting into like some of these mini product reviews, so that way you have something to consider as you're building out your kit, or you have some resources that you can go ahead and use if you do decide that you want to go with some of the bags that I am presenting within this video. In addition to these bags, I will be sharing the accessories and the links as well. So this is not a sponsored video. By all means, you are getting my most unfiltered thoughts on these products that I have vetted throughout the years and compared against several different other bags and brands. So hopefully this is a really good resource for you as you're thinking about how do you build out your kit. Now, by the end of the video, I'm also going to be sharing how I standardize these bags, so that way I am so prepared to go out there in the world, whether it be in nature, an urban landscape environment, or any kind of condition in any place, so that way I can create the best that I can, given the resources that I have on hand. So, with that in mind, let's get right into the video. Before I get started talking about the actual products themselves, there's a couple questions that I had to ask myself when I was vetting and trying out and using so many different bags throughout the years, and eventually I came across these bags that helped me fulfill those kinds of questions. And a couple of them, a little bit obvious, but a couple of them we're going to walk through a little bit. Not going to get too into the details about them, but worth considering. So the first one is, can this carry a tripod? So what I'm using to record this video right now, I have the Peak Design carbon fiber tripod. I like going super lightweight and going with carbon. It's a pretty resistant and durable material, and it's super lightweight compared to aluminum. Plus it is pretty compact, so I need something that can go ahead and hold my tripod, whether it be a bag or a sling. I'll show you guys a little bit more examples as we get down deeper into the video. The second point that I consider when it comes to vetting out my camera gear and deciding on which one I ultimately want to invest in and go with is going to be how well can this bag sustain against rain for a long period of time, and also how quickly can it dry. Now, what I find really important when carrying around a bunch of camera gear that's really expensive is saying how well can that gear be secured in place but also be dry if I'm ever caught in a situation where I'm in rain or it just gets water splashed onto me. I'm not looking for a bag that's necessarily waterproof, completely waterproof, or weatherproof. Rather, I need something that can go ahead and sustain against water, or it has an attachment that can go over the bag and protect the bag itself and the contents of that inside of it and keep them dry. Now, for the sake of this video, I feel like it's really important to talk about the terms waterproof and weatherproof as well, because I feel like those two terms tend to get thrown around a lot and also be overused to the point where now it can be confusing and they're being used interchangeably with each other. I myself work in the outdoor retail industry, so I have a better understanding of how those two terms are used. Now, for someone like me who works with product that is apparel as well as bags, I see those two terms thrown around a lot. Now, there is a clear distinction between those two. I'm not going to get too deep into the weeds of it, but I'm going to provide a brief overview. I will provide some links in the description below, so that way you guys can have a better understanding of what to look out for when it comes to those two terms and ultimately deciding what is it that you need to build out your kit. Starting off with waterproof, there are multiple levels to waterproof. There's water repellent, water resistant, and waterproof. Now, as you go up in that scale, the heftier the price tag is going to be, but the more effective that it is going to be against water and much more breathable that it is going to be as well. When it comes to the term weatherproof, I feel like that's a term created by the outdoor industry to sell and advertise to people that this bag or article of clothing is waterproof at a fraction of the price. Now, waterproof is, or weather resistant, is defined as something that can go ahead and sustain against bad weather for a long period of time. Now, ultimately, I just view this as how well can this repel water and also quickly dry in a condition where I'm caught in rain. So now that we have those two terms just established, let's also just consider like where are we going to be taking these bags, because I feel like that also plays into what it is that you ultimately need. Now, if you're going to be living out here, say in the Bay Area and California, where it's pretty dry for the most part, going with something that's really waterproof or weather resistant is going to be maybe a bit of an overkill. Now, if you're going to be traveling in places where it's like hey, I'm going to be in the snow, or I'm going to be out in a area where rain is much more probable, or if it's not as probable, the rain is very heavy and it can downpour, that's when you might want to consider, you know what, I think I need something even greater than waterproof, or I might need something that's waterproof as well as has a rainfly attachment to it, so that way I can keep everything inside of my bag secure, warm, and dry. The last thing I want to mention is rainfly and accessories. I feel like that's important when considering out a camera bag as well. Does it have a rainfly included? Now, this rainfly can be something that goes over the bag, or it can be something that's included within the bag, or maybe something that you can source from a third party. But you got to make sure that the rainfly is compatible with the bag that you have, so that way no water leaks into it unnecessarily. So now that we have all those distinctions cleared out of the way, I feel like we have a better understanding of what to look out for when it comes to vetting out a bag, when it comes to being it weatherproof or waterproof. The third consideration I have when it comes to deciding on which camera bag that I need at a given time is seeing how much gear that I'm going to be used depending on the outing that I'm going to be in. So I have 3 different bags within my rotation that I use currently for traveling. I have an 8 liter bag, I have a 20 liter bag, as well as a 31 liter bag that can expand up to a 35 liter bag. Starting off with the 8 liter bag, I tend to use that for more smaller occasions or occasions where I'm just not going to be needing a lot of gear. So typically I will run 1 body as well as maybe 2 lenses at most. So for example, I would use a Canon R8, maybe a 24-70, then maybe a prime lens along with that. So that way I don't feel like I'm too weighted as I'm going around, say, doing street photography or just on a casual outing. As for my 20 liter bag, I tend to use that more as a happy medium between my 8 liter bag and my 31 liter bag. I feel like with my 31 liter bag, that right there I wouldn't use unless I'm going for an extended travel vacation or just doing an extended project out there in the field and I need more equipment. As for the 8 liter bag, sometimes I might feel like it's a bit too small and that doesn't carry all the gear that I need, and in case I need to buy more things while I'm out there in the field, it just may not be able to hold everything that I need at a given time. So that's where the 20 liter bag comes into play. I feel like I can use that bag for a 2 body system if needed, but typically I would run 1 body on that, and then I would have several lenses, maybe 2 at the minimum, 3 at most. So theoretically I can go with a 1 body system with a dedicated to videography and then 1 body system dedicated to photography. So for example, I'd run like say maybe an R6 Mark II with a 15-35 and then a R8 with the 24-70. I can have both those cameras at the ready and without having to change different lenses while I'm out there in the field. And plus a 20 liter bag, although it can do that, it still gives me enough space where if I'm acquiring something out there in the field, I can go ahead and store it within the bag, no problem whatsoever. Now, as for the 31 liter bag, that right there is my travel buddy for whenever I go for an extended travel, maybe for like 2 weeks or a month at most, and depending on the project that I'm going to be doing at the time too. So, like with the 20 liter bag, it can do everything that I just mentioned. However, it has more space for just in case I need to acquire more things or just bring more gear, whether it be a tripod, 2 body system, and then like 3 or 4 lenses at a given time. I consider that to be a lot. I still want to be a little bit more mobile, but with a 35 liter bag that can collapse into a 31 liter bag, I feel like that right there is just enough for me to set myself up creatively for success while I'm out there in the field, because I have that space for not only carrying as much camera equipment as I need, but I can also carry other things in the meantime as well. The next thing that I consider when it comes to deciding on a camera bag to take out with me is going to be in 2 parts. One being accessibility, the other part being security. I'm going to go into both those in a little bit more detail so that way you can go ahead and consider it for yourself. Starting off with accessibility, I think about how I can go ahead and collect the gear that I need from the bag itself, and also if I'm going to be storing the bag someplace, whether it be in like an overhead storage or just someplace where it's away from my person, I can go ahead and quickly grab that bag and just get on with my merry way. So when it comes to the type of traveling that I do, I tend to carry my camera bags in different varieties of places, whether it be an overhead storage on an airplane or maybe the under compartment of a seat of an airplane, or I might even throw it in the back of my trunk of a car, so that way I can go ahead and just be more hands-free and just be more weightless. At the same time, I consider how am I going to be accessing that bag when I'm away from it. If it has like a top handle or a side handle or even a bottom handle, something that I can quickly like latch onto and just take it out with ease, that's a big bonus for me. So instead of having to like shift through the bag and also touch like certain parts of it, so that way I can draw it out. Speaking of security, there are a lot of things that I consider when I'm going out with my bag at a given time, especially when I'm solo traveling. So I just want to make sure that when I'm out there in the field, I'm going out there with a bag that gives me the absolute confidence and peace of mind, knowing that I'm going to be the only person accessing the contents within this bag, and that there's not going to be any wandering hands latching themselves onto my bag anytime soon. So I think of like anti-theft. How well can the zippers be protected, and how hard is it for zippers to go ahead and like open and close while I'm wearing the bag? Now, there are some camera bags that I use and have tried out in the past where it's very easy for me to not only secure the zippers, but also like keep the bag on me, so that way I can go ahead and just simply like swing the bag around, open a side panel, quickly collect something, and just go on my merry way. And speaking of side panel, there are other pockets that I look for in addition to that. If I look for hidden pockets and find something that can really suit my need in a given time and space, I look for those too, so that way I can say redistribute my gear, or maybe even some loose bills depending on the time and space. The last thing that I consider when it comes to picking out my camera bag is accessories. Now that comes into two parts as well. The first part being what accessories are available to each camera bag as well as brand, because every brand is going to have a different part of an ecosystem, as well as what accessories can I buy, whether it be through a third-party website or brand, that I can go ahead and attach onto these bags, so that way I can go ahead and standardize them, given that I have different brand of bags. Now, I'm going to get into standardization a little bit later on in this video, but for at least this section right here, I'm going to touch upon the main part first, that being what accessories are pertaining to each bag. Now, there are different brands out there with their different ecosystems, and they work really well within just their own environment. Now, I think about like what accessories can I use to say like help me distribute my weight in a certain part of a bag, or really make my bag usable in a different way. And I'll get into a little bit more later on as I get into these bags too, but that's just something to consider early on, so that way you have just much more range of like utility and options. Now, as for the other part, that being standardization, I find this to be very important, especially when you're building out multiple different kits as well as using different bags from different brands. Each brand will have its own ecosystem, so that means that not every accessory is compatible with each type of bag that you own. So you might have to look in third-party sources. So there are some accessories as well as items that I will be going a little bit later on, and how I standardize these bags, so that way theoretically when I'm going out with a certain bag, depending on the liter size that I need, I know that I can go out with confidence, because this bag is set up very similarly, say between my 20 as well as my 31 liter bag. So I have no surprises there, and that I can just go ahead and create without worrying about do I have enough gear or the gear that I need on hand at a given time. So speaking of gear and all those considerations, let's just dive right into the first bag. I'm going to be showing you the Hexbrand DSLR Sling right over here. This bag has been in my kit for a very long time, really since the start of my photography journey. Big reason too is because this bag right over here at the time of this video is under $100, and I'm going to show you how amazing this bag is for its price range too, and for the value that you're getting out of it. So just starting off with the exterior of the bag, I'll be working my way towards the interior of the bag. We have a big compartment over here. This is going to be your main storage unit. This right here, you can carry a one kit system, one body, as well as the lens already attached to it. Otherwise, you can also bring a secondary lens as well too. So I'd say at most you can carry 2 lenses and 1 body, or maybe 2 bodies, 1 lens, depending on the kind of photography or videography that you're going to be doing at a time. Additionally, you can carry so many different personal items. I'd say even the bare necessities, whether it be like an identification card, your wallet, phone, keys, all that in this bag too, and still have some space left over for say some accessories or even things that you just acquire out there while you're in the field. So yeah, main compartment storage right over here, 1 body, 2 lens system. You can definitely fit that into there. Additionally, you have 3 other compartments. You have one on the back closest to your person. This right here, I like using it to store like say some loose items, whether it be some wipes or even some masks or even some like other like provisions that are just like flat. I can go ahead and keep that there in the person. Additionally, you have this other compartment just right under this secondary compartment where you have a dedicated rainfly for the bag. So I love this rainfly because for one, it's very lightweight. Nothing too like fancy with it, pretty straightforward, and it covers the entirety of the bag. Granted, it's gonna leave a little bit of space over here too because that's where the rainfly is coming out. Nonetheless, like this bag has served me very well in heavy conditions. Some conditions and fond memories that I've had of just using this bag is just using it in Japan when the weather just changes on a dime like that, going from like sunny to now cloudy to like now downpour. I've also used this in New York where I had to basically escape Times Square and there was just a lot of rain going on at a time, and just having this bag covered with the rainfly already dedicated and built into it is super nice to have. Really, I'd find a necessity. Now going into the front portion of the bag itself too, you have a couple options over here. You have a smaller storage that you can go ahead and say fit a phone or just any other kind of like accessory or item that you need in there. I typically put my phone in there. It's big enough for it and deep enough as well, and it's not so cumbersome where like you really have to dig for it. It is also fleece lined as well, so in the case that you're in a cold environment and that you want to keep something warm, you can go ahead and say put a phone in there, because if you don't have say a fleece lined interior, chances are the battery is going to be running much more and that you're going to be depleting it because it's going to be compensating for the cold. So this front storage pocket right here, you can use it for a lot of things. I personally use it for a phone. As for this third compartment over here, it's going to be the middle pocket. You can store a lot of different things inside of it too, so phone, wallet, accessories as well. Really just a lot of personal items and small items as need be, because you have dedicated little pockets. I myself like to carry, say, the Twone notebooks, so that way I can just go ahead and write some notes. I like to put a pen into my bag as well too, so that way I can go ahead and write down anything as needed. Maybe put in some AirPods or Galaxy Buds for audio as well. The other thing that I like about this bag too are going to be the accessibility portion of it. So like I mentioned with accessibility, I like something where if I put this on the ground or put it on an overhead storage bin, I can go ahead and quickly collect the bag as needed. You have basically 4 handles that you can go ahead and collect from. You have 2 from the side. These 2, you can go ahead and also put a, say, tripod in it, or put a jacket, you roll it up, you slip it into here. You can go ahead and collect that, or even just store something using these straps. You also have side straps on both the right as well as the left handle, so you, wherever the orientation is, you can go ahead, slip your hand in there, pull it out as needed. And then you have your 2 other straps over here. You have a back strap where the rainfly is. Additionally, you have a strap right here, which is your main strap for putting the bag over your person. So really, wherever you orient this bag or however it gets shuffled, you can go ahead and collect it as need be. A couple other things I want to run through with this bag too is that you have a very comfortable shoulder strap and a very adjustable one too. It has a little shoulder pad right over here, so for long-term comfort, it's not going to feel like a strap just digging into your shoulder. Additionally, as you can see, I have the Peak Design capture clip, so I have these on every one of my bags, so that way if I want to go hands-free or just quickly access my camera without having to put it within the bag itself, I can go ahead and totally do that. The other thing I like about this bag is a little bit of a nifty feature, but nothing too like groundbreaking. It's just a hidden pocket right over here. So I have Velcro within this hidden pocket. So I have it on this side of the camera strap as well as this side of the shoulder strap as well. So if you have some loose bills or change, you can go ahead and redistribute or allocate something into those pockets as needed. The other thing that I like to do with this bag as well is attach, say, a piece of string, so that way if I want to go ahead and secure the bag even further, I can go ahead and really tie these loops into each other. Additionally, you have these little loops and holes within the zippers themselves, so that way you can go ahead and put a travel lock. Just another added layer of security. Finally, without getting super too into this bag, I have a carabiner over here, as well as an anchor by Peak Design, both of which I feel like are really necessary for the type of traveling that I do and how I'm building out my kit. Carabiner, just a pretext of what I use it for, which I'll get later on in this video, is using it for, say, putting a bag externally onto my other bag, so that way I can go ahead and remain hands-free. As for this anchor right over here, this Peak Design mighty little anchor, I have it on every one of my cameras and even my camera bags, so that way I can go ahead and put an accessory on it, namely the Peak Design capture cuff, so that way it's, if I don't want to wear it on my wrist, I can just put it on my bag and it just allows me to really utilize my space and equipment even better. So with all that in mind, let's get into bag number 2. The second bag that I have, which is a step up from the Hexbrand DSLR 8-liter Sling, is going to be this guy over here. In my hands, I have the Peak Design Everyday 20-liter bag. They make this in a couple different variants and a couple different sizes too. So this bag right over here, it comes in a 15, a 20, as well as a 30-liter bag. And it comes in 2 different variants. So this one right here, I have it where the zipper is allocated all the way around the bag too, and you can just vary how accessible that you want the bag to be depending on how you place the zippers through the loopholes. Additionally, with this bag, I find that it just suits my aesthetic more than say the other variant, whereas you have the top hatch coming in from the bag. I just like this because it has a much more sleek and minimal design and just more cleaner overall. Additionally, I got this for a really good price, so I really couldn't say no when the opportunity presented itself. So starting from the exterior of the bag and just working my way through the interior of the bag, we have a lot of things going for it. Now, going into a 20-liter bag compared to a 8-liter bag, what I like about this is that now I can carry a laptop as needed and the associated accessories with it. So say a charger and some other, say, external adapters or maybe an HDMI cable, I can go ahead and fit that within this backpack over here. I believe that this bag can definitely hold a 14-inch laptop. I believe the maximum is going to be 15. I'll just drop a link to all the specifications of this bag in the description below, so that way you can go ahead and read through it. But you have an adjustable bag, so that way you can make a deeper pocket to include a larger laptop. But yes, I love this bag for a couple reasons. Just aforementioned, just having the ability to carry a laptop. But over here too, in the pocket closest to the person, I have a couple things going for it. So as you can see, I have my Nun tablets, so that way if I am dehydrated, need some little bit more caffeine in my system after a long day, I can go ahead and take one of these, drop into some water. So stay thirsty, my friends. Yes, I have a couple different pockets, so that way I can keep my wallet, keys, other personal items just as close to my person as possible, including my Nun tablets. And then I just have some other pockets here too, where I can go ahead and secure, say, a mask or something, and just keep loose items that are just small enough to carry in between the bag as well as my person too. As for the zipper itself, this one's pretty darn unique, whereas I have 2 main zippers over here. So as you can see, I have one zipper looped around this loophole, so that way I can go ahead and only access the side profile of the bag itself. This side profile I just really like because I can go ahead and keep the bag on me, kind of like a sling in a way, when I'm trying to access something and just take something out as needed. As for the compartments themselves, I have multiple ways of customizing the compartments. So I have basically 2 shelves within this bag. You can buy the shelves separately and just customize it however you need be. So like I mentioned with this bag, I can theoretically run a 2-body system as well as some lens already attached to it. So like an R6 Mark II with a 15-35, I can orient that for video. I can also orient the R8 with a 24-70, so that way I can use it for photography, and I can just go straight into the bag and just use them without having to really change out my lenses while I'm out there in the field. And as I showed the interior of the bag too, there were some side pockets within the bag as well. So these side pockets, you can go ahead and include little items in there. I feel like with Peak Design, a really good strong suit of them is not only just multifunctionality of their bags, but just how well they just maximize and utilize their space. So you can go ahead and secure, say, loose items, whether it be like a charging brick, cables, just really anything electronic that you just want in the bag itself to keep it nice, secure, and dry from like bad weather. Speaking of bad weather too, this bag is considered weatherproof. So like I mentioned earlier, when it comes to weatherproofing, it's not necessarily fully waterproof. However, this bag has held up in like light drizzle or somewhat moist environments. But in terms of heavy rain, eventually rain will penetrate the bag. But there is some added protection, whereas with the zippers themselves too, you have this material lining the outside, so it's harder for water to just get straight into between the zippers themselves. And as we're talking about the zippers, going back to just how I orient the bag. I have the side panel where I can go ahead and access it. However, if I want to access the whole entirety of the bag, I can reorient this zipper where it has that anchor in and just set it all the way to the bottom over here, so that way I can go ahead and just make use of the entirety of the bag. But I find that to be a very rare instance for me. I don't feel like I need to access the whole bag, but just part of it, so that way I can just keep all my gear secured as best as possible. Going on to the accessibility of this bag, I have 3 different handles that I can go ahead and collect the bag from. So if I'm putting this in an overhead storage compartment or just in a place where it may be difficult for me to reach, I know that I can access it from the top handle and both side handles as well. The downside is, compared to the Hexbrand 8-liter Sling, I don't have any bottom handles over here, so that makes it difficult for me to just access it. But chances are I'm not going to be orienting my bag with the bottom side facing out towards me. Chances are I'm going to have this strap facing out towards me, so that way it's just super easy to access. In terms of comfort with this bag, I find that this is a really comfortable bag, and I've used it, like I mentioned, for everywhere and most occasions until I've learned about new bags and just other technology that's out there. So the way that the straps contour around the person, it's more like an S-curve in a way, so that way it suits most body types. It's not like a shoulder strap that goes straight down, rather it contours and goes out of the way, so that way it can accommodate for like a bigger torso. Additionally, you have other ways to make this bag comfortable too. If you're adding more weight onto this bag, which I would suggest not adding more than like say 10 or even like 20% of your body weight at most, Peak Design also carries this hip belt over here, which is separate from the bag. You can go ahead and buy this. I find that this accessory is not an absolute necessity. I bought it to try it out, and I just feel like in very rare instances you're going to be exceeding really a lot of weight with this bag, enough where like, hey, now I need to orient the weight so it's not always on my shoulders. I need to have it more on my hips. I've only had to use this hip belt once, and that was when I had to go to Mount Rainier with my cousin Christian, which was an absolute blast. At the same time, I just felt like, because this is a one size hip belt over here, I feel that it doesn't accommodate all body types, and I feel like the hip belt is a bit on the smaller or narrower side, so that way if you have like wider hips, it's not going to securely contour and hug the iliac crest, or just like use your hip bone as more like a shelf. I did find myself having to hike up the bag a little bit here and there, just so that way I can just redistribute and reorient the bag, so that way the hip belts are nicely securing my hips. So that's just something to consider over there too. But in terms of comfort, you have just a really comfortable bag. It's not a mesh bag, so it could get pretty warm and ventilated depending on, it can get pretty warm and not as ventilated depending on where you're going. You also have these really nifty, like I'd say like joints of the bag. So these silver bits over here, they help contour the bag so that way it just hugs your body comfortably. I'd say one of the downsides with this bag is just how it can fit most body types, maybe not some. So depending on how big your torso is, you might need something a little bit more than this bag over here. But in terms of the other things that are going for this bag, I'd also say that it can be very well accessorized depending on what your needs are. So very similarly with a Hexbrand DSLR Sling, I have the Peak Design anchor clip right over here, so that way I can attach the cuff as needed. I have a carabiner over here on one of the side handles, so that way I can go ahead and go hands-free, attach a bag to it on the exterior if I don't have enough space within the interior of this bag. Quick side note about the carabiner itself too, I like to go for contrasting colors so I can quickly determine and orient my bag and see which side that I'm like putting something on. So yellow goes really well with blue, complementary colors, my photographers. And as for my Hexbrand DSLR Sling, I have a silver carabiner. I could have opted for a red one to make it a really nice complementary color scheme, but at the same time something shiny like that of a silver color just helps me understand like which part of the bag that I'm looking at a time, or just orienting it. Additionally, I have my Peak Design capture clip over here, so that way I can go hands-free and keep the camera onto my shoulder strap instead of just in my camera bag. And over here I have a sternum strap, so in the case that I need to go ahead and bring the shoulder straps more together, I totally can. So yes, a lot going for this bag. I find that a 20-liter bag is a very happy medium between a bag that's less than 10 liters or greater than 30 liters is going to be where most people fall into or needs. But then again, take into consideration what I have said and just look for yourself and see like if this is something that's worth considering. Like I mentioned, it comes in other different sizes and variants, so you aren't without options. The last bag that I'm going to be getting into for this video, and something that's just been really my dedicated travel buddy for extended travel over the past couple of years, is this guy over here. In my hands, I have the Wandrd Provoke 31-liter bag, and there's just a lot going for this bag that I really love and am really excited to share with you guys as we just dive into this video. So starting off with the exterior and just moving our way to the interior of this bag, there's a lot of things going for it. So starting off with why I bought this bag, it's a weatherproof bag, so by all means it can go ahead and sustain against rain for quite some time, and because of how quality the materials are, I can just trust that this bag can operate within the rain without a rainfly. Granted, there's no rainfly that comes with it, but from the time of this video, Wandrd has released another iteration of this bag, another version of it, so it's much more durable and resistant to that kind of wet condition, namely for this top roller right over here. So they've actually made it a little bit more water resistant, so that way when water comes onto the bag, it doesn't completely penetrate the bag over time. Speaking of the roll up top, I can go ahead and expand this bag from a 31 liter effectively to a 35 liter bag. So if I'm acquiring different provisions or other things while I'm out there in the field, I can go ahead and not only keep my camera gear nice and secure, but I can go ahead and add things to the top of this bag as well. So I have much more space to play with, and if I don't need the space, I can just go ahead and roll it up. And what I like about it is that I can still use it like a tote bag in a way. So even when I'm filling this bag up to basically the brim of it, I can still use this tote handle like no problem. The other thing I like about it too is, like I mentioned, 31 liters to a 35 liter bag. I can go ahead and expand it out as needed and just really collapse it when I don't need it. Plus, for this bag and the kind of accessories that are associated with it, there's a lot going for it as well. I mainly find a lot of utility out of getting these not camera straps, but these additional straps over here. They come in a set of 2, and what I love about the Wandrd ecosystem is that you can use these in a variety of different ways, and the brand is just so mindful of like how you can orient your bag. So I've used these straps to secure, say, a jacket over the bag itself, so that way I don't have to carry it around my waist, or I can go ahead and secure a tripod down over here too. It's a little bit hard to see because of the lighting, but we have these straps on the bottom of the bag too that you can go ahead and attach. You can again put a tripod or maybe even say a piece of clothing over here, or maybe even a blanket, so when the condition calls and it's cold, you can just go ahead and orient your gear as needed in different compartments. And what I love about these straps too is that they're not only usable on the Provoke, but I also have the Fernway 50, which I'm not going to get into this video because that's a backpack for its own video, but you can use these straps for other parts of different camera bags related to Wandrd products as well too. Now, in terms of a lot of external features, not only can you store things externally, but you have a couple ways of accessing your gear as well, or just storing your gear too. So starting off with this, in a way like a water bottle holder, but not really a water bottle holder. You can also use it for a tripod, so if you don't want to go ahead and use the bottom straps over here, you can go ahead and orient it to the side, so that way it also helps you redistribute your weight and just make the bag much as comfortable as possible. The side pocket is also expandable, so you can go ahead and secure and store more things as needed. Plus you have this nice strap to help expand out the bag as needed, and also just slip a tripod leg through, so that way you can go ahead and secure the tripod instead of just having it hang from the like quote-unquote water bottle holder there itself. As for the other side of the bag, you have a couple things going for it. Very much the same story when it comes to this strap. You can go ahead and expand the bag as you need it, depending on how much that you're carrying or how much less stuff that you're going to be carrying. You also have here a little side pocket, so you can use this for a variety of things. You can put like say a wallet in there, or just like some other little loose items, maybe even allocate some bills in there too, so that way you can just go ahead and secure money in a different fashion. You can really use this pocket however it may be. And like I mentioned about accessories, getting to a little bit here, I have the Peak Design camera cuff, so I have it attached to the anchor, and I have that looped in through the zipper itself too. So that way I can go ahead and quickly slide up and down on that zipper as needed if I don't want to wear this cuff on my wrist itself. For the last thing on this side of the bag too, you have a side door. So this side door I absolutely love because very much similar to the Peak Design 20-liter bag as well as the Hexbrand 8-liter Sling. I can go ahead and keep the bag oriented on my person, have it on me, and then just go ahead and open up the side door so that way if I don't want to keep the camera onto the Peak Design capture clip right over here, I can just go ahead, collect that camera as needed and have it still be protected, because these zippers right down over here, although they're at the top of the bag, I can securely store them at the bottom of the bag right over here, so it makes it much more difficult for hands that are just not mine to go ahead and grab onto it and just like zip it up and down. So that is something to look out for as well. Really protection like at its finest, I'd say. And speaking of protection, you have this clamshell back over here. So it might be a little bit hard to see because again, the lighting as well as just how dark the bag is itself, but you have a clamshell back, so that way it's the main compartment is sandwiched between your person and the bag itself. Just makes it really difficult for other hands to just go ahead and seize the bag and just like open it up and down. So I'm gonna get a little bit more into the exterior a bit later on, but a couple things to note when just wrapping up the exterior of this bag. You also have a little pocket right here underneath the lip of the roll-up top, as well as the clamshell back, so that way you can just go ahead and stuff some loose items in there. I like to use it, say, for ND filters or maybe even some like sunglasses, so that way it is nice and protected. The other thing too when it comes to the bag itself, which can be a little bit hard to see, but I'll make sure to make this as good as possible, is that you also have the Wandrd hip belt over here. This right here is an additional accessory that you're gonna have to get on your own, but I find that kind of similar to the Peak Design 20-liter bag. I don't use this that often because I just feel like I don't weigh this bag to the excess. Granted, there's a lot of other things I like going for with this hip belt over here. Part of it too is that you have a wider arm, so that way it really does hug the iliac crest or the hip bone, and it just contours really nicely, so that way it just really activates that hip bone and just be able to use it as a shelf. I like that a lot too. Plus you have a little side pocket over here, so that way if you have some snacks or like maybe some loose things that loose small things that you want to keep onto your person, you can go ahead and do that. What I just don't find to be a strength with this hip belt relative to the Peak Design one is that relative to the Peak Design one, you have a place where you can put a capture clip onto the hip belt, whereas with this guy over here, because of how it's oriented, it might be a little bit difficult to put a hip belt capture clip on it securely without just it feeling too awkward or just feeling like the weight's just off to the point where now it's uncomfortable. So that's just something to look out for. And also this is stored differently, whereas like it's two separate arms attached to basically two different loopholes over here. Now, unlike the Peak Design one, it folds upward and into itself, which is also really nice. But for this guy, it's basically two different arms that you're gonna have to apply in two different ways. So you're gonna have to take it on and off depending on how you're gonna use it. The last thing I'm gonna go over when it comes to the exterior of the bag, actually second to last thing, is this little loop strap over here. So you can go ahead and sit this on top of a luggage, and that way you're not carrying it on your person. It's secured within the luggage itself through the handle. Additionally, under this loop strap, you have a little hidden compartment, so that way you can keep things that you want very secure to your person. So whether it be like a passport or maybe some other loose bills that you want to keep within your bag too. So yeah, this little zipper right over here, I've used it for a variety of different use cases, but just mainly for like my passport and personal identification items. And the last thing I'm going to go over for at least this section of just the exterior of the bag is going to be this little hidden pocket right under the bottom. So you can go ahead and very similarly to the hidden zipper behind the loop strap, you can just go ahead and secure some items in there too, whether it be like passport or just some other loose bills or just other flat items that are just like really just that you want hidden away from like wandering hands. As for the interior of the bag, let's look inside of it. So like I mentioned, we have a clamshell back over here, and you can access it, the main compartment, through the clamshell. So just opening up this bag, you have a very big bag over here. A lot of it's going to be fleece lined. The camera cube is separate from the bag itself, so depending on like how big of a camera cube that you need, you can orient this bag differently. So I like to have a fleece lined interior bag because like I mentioned with some of the other bags too, if you're in a cold environment and you're in a place where it's really cold, snowing or rainy, chances are that cold can make your battery deplete even faster. So just having something fleece lined, having the bag be warmed, it's going to protect your battery and keep your gear lasting for a little bit longer too. So this right here has different, not shelves compared to the Peak Design one, but you have different ways of dividing up the bag through these small like fleece lined dividers. So depending on like how much gear that you're going to be taking out at a time, you totally can use this for like a variety of conditions. Additionally, you have this little pocket over here, which also connects to the zipper right under the lip of the roll up top. You can go ahead and flip that up and just access more gear and just put more gear depending on how you're going to orient the bag. The other thing too is for the clamshell back itself, you have a variety of different little pockets, so you can go ahead and put some charging bricks, some loose cables, or just other things that you just want secured and stuck away in the bag. You have your laptop sleeve over here, as well as that strap over there, so that way it doesn't fall out by any means. And really, just like the Peak Design 20-liter bag, this bag can carry all the things that I mentioned in the 20-liter bag, and even more too, depending on how much gear that you need at a given time. So really, I'd say a good strength of this is that you can carry, say, a 2-body system, maybe like 3 or 4 lenses at most. And if you want to carry a drone, which I have the DJI Mini 3, I can go ahead and secure all that within my bag. Like with all my other bags too, there's other things that I consider when it comes to standardizing this bag. Here, what I love about the shoulder straps is it has these loopholes lining the straps, so that way I can slip a carabiner in these bags and really go hands-free with other accessories. I also have the ability to put Peak Design anchor loops or anchors just wherever I need to, and in this example this is really nice because I have the actual cuff attached to the anchor loop. And as for the Peak Design capture clip, this is compatible with the Peak Design capture clip. It does fit rather nicely, but I do find that this shoulder strap is a bit on the wider side, so I had to compress or orient the Peak Design capture clip lower on the shoulder strap. Plus these shoulder straps right over here, compared to the Peak Design 20-liter bag, they're just a little bit straighter, I'd say, but it still contours really well, so for maximum comfort over a long period of time. Lastly, speaking on comfort, something I forgot to mention earlier on was just the mesh backing and how it's oriented. So you have basically 3 different mesh blocks within the bag. It's kind of hard to see because of the lighting, but you have 3 different mesh blocks over here, and like you have an air vent channel, so that way your bag is not sweaty and not humid, and it can ventilate accordingly. And over the period of time, like these mesh backs, they conform to your body and they just feel really nice for a long, say, expedition or just like long excursion. So yeah, for terms of comfort, value, and protection with this bag, you're getting a lot for it. It is a bit on the pricier side, but for what you're paying for and like what you're getting a really quality product for, I'd say, a fair price. Additionally, this bag comes in different sizes as well, so if your 31-liter bag is too much for your needs, then you can go ahead and look into something that's less than this. It comes in like Provoke Light and something like that. So yeah, more information in the links down below. The last thing I'm gonna get into in this video is gonna be accessories and standardizing bags. So when it comes to accessories, there's a couple accessories that I find that I need for each bag, because like I mentioned throughout the video, by having accessories each like pertaining to each bag and that I can just use interchangeably, I can make sure that whichever bag that I take out, I can go ahead and create with confidence and just travel with confidence, because I know that I'm not forgetting a certain piece of equipment when it comes to a bag. Now, there are times when I was building out my camera kit early on where I just didn't have basically the funds or just enough equipment on hand, so I had to keep on changing out, interchanging and taking out, say, the Peak Design capture clip, moving it from one bag to the other, and in some cases I've actually forgotten to remove the Peak Design capture clip and move it onto another bag, which ended up costing me a couple shots and also just like the freedom to create, because now I have to keep on taking my camera out, or I have to keep my camera on my hand or on my or on my neck through, like, say, the camera strap. And over time it's just like, you know what, why not just make the bags as simple as possible and just standardize them throughout, so that way I can just create with absolute confidence. So like I mentioned, having something like a carabiner is, I think, really necessary for me. Here I have a black diamond carabiner, or you can just use any carabiner of your choice. But with this guy over here, I like to go hands-free at times, so I like to go ahead and create, put a carabiner onto the loop straps of the Wandrd bag, or even anywhere in the bag that has a strap, so that way I can go hands-free. I can put a bag, or I can even put this cute little guy over here, the Cedar Summit Aeros pillow. So if I'm on an airplane or just on a, say, train for a long period of time, I could just blow this little guy up and then use it as like a comfortable neck pillow. Really fun travel item to have on hand, and sometimes I'd even say a necessity, so that way you're not constantly like trying to keep your neck upright or trying to use something to like station your neck and not have like a really bad neck the next morning. So yeah, carabiners, absolute necessity, at least in my book. The other thing that I find to be a necessity for my camera bags as well as my camera gear is going to be this little guy over here. It's the Peak Design anchor. So this little guy over here, I use it for wherever I can find a loophole, and I can just comfortably put, say, my Peak Design camera cuff. That's going to be my main use case, so that way wherever I'm going, I can just go ahead and put that cuff on there. I have some way of securing my camera onto my person, because there are times where I don't like to carry the Peak Design slide camera strap, because I just find it's too bulky or just too cumbersome for my needs. So depending on where I'm going, having that cuff on my wrist, it's really nice to have, but sometimes even that can be a little bit annoying. So just taking that camera cuff off my wrist and just keeping it on my bag is just something where it adds another layer of utility too. So I find these to be really useful, just really minimal, and also pretty inexpensive and quite worth it for the pack that it comes in and for the price that you're getting it at. So highly recommend putting one of these onto your bags as necessary. The other thing it comes to when it comes to standardizing my bags is gonna have this Peak Design capture clip over here. Now this is like my dedicated travel buddy wherever I go. I feel like I definitely need to have one of these on hand for definitely a good reason. So there are times where like I don't want to keep the camera onto my hand itself, or I don't want to keep it wrapped around my neck, or I don't even want to keep it within the bag itself, because if there's a photo opportunity, I want to go ahead and be able to take my camera out as quickly as needed and just be able to capture that moment in time, or just be able to create in that given moment of time. So having this capture clip right over here is an absolute lifesaver and necessity, and I feel like you can definitely orient this, if not on the shoulder strap itself. There are other ways that you can orient it. You can keep it onto a hip belt. So like I mentioned earlier on in comparing to this bag with the Wandrd 31 liter Provoke bag, you have this little loop over here, so that way you can go ahead and secure a capture clip and just not have it onto your shoulder strap if you're, say, like wandering about. I find it useful to not have a capture clip onto the shoulder strap itself when I am out hiking and that I'm ascending someplace where like I need to keep my body as close to, say, like a rock face, or just like when I'm climbing up and I need something out of the way, because if I have that camera like in between the rock face as well as my camera in my camera bag, chances are I'm gonna like either scratch my camera or damage my camera in some way. So having it on the hip belt itself is a really nice to have, and I'd say a need in some very rare few cases. But if you're just gonna be wandering out in like urban environments or nature environments where like it doesn't really call for that, then I'd say like keep it on your camera strap or keep it on your shoulder strap for the most part. And so yes, those are those 3 accessories that I use when it comes to standardizing my bags. Again, when it comes to standardizing my bags, I just want to make sure that like whichever bag that I take out at a given time, I know that I can go ahead and just wander around and create with absolute confidence, knowing that I have the equipment that I need at a given time. With all these bags in mind, I'm really excited to share with you guys how I'm going to be using them once I'm out there in Seoul as well as Indonesia. You can follow me more on Kuya_Adrian over on Instagram to see how I'm going to be using these bags, and also just traveling around the world in different places and just enjoying creating with the gear that I have on hand. I will drop links to all these items down in the description below, so if you want to pick yourself something up and also support the channel directly, you can go ahead and do that. Pick yourself up some really nice gear and just go ahead and yeah, support the channel. So with that in mind, if you do like this content, go ahead and give it a like, so that way I know that stuff like this is worth creating for you guys. If you want a little bit more of an in-depth review, or just see what other bags that I have on hand and just want me to do a review on, that will also help out as well. Just drop a comment in the description below, so that way I have an understanding of like what is it that you guys like. Additionally, for more travel and portrait photography related content, just go ahead and hit that subscribe button, so that way it also helps direct this up with the channel and that you are also in the loop of what I have creating on at the time. So speaking of creating, I gotta get to creating myself and just planning out my trips throughout the year. So on that note, I will catch you guys later and I'll see you in the next video. So with that in mind, peace out.